Good morning. Welcome to this morning's edition of the Richard Urban Show. We bring you news and views from the unification principle point of view. We're very happy today to continue this series of interviews with primary candidates. And actually, this is a nonpartisan race, so this will be the actual race for the Conservation District Supervisor. We have Daniel Lutz on today, so please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Daniel Lutz. I reside in the Cabletown District of Jefferson County, and I'm seeking my third term as Conservation District Supervisor from Jefferson County. It's a nonpartisan race. I'm also unopposed.
Yes. Yeah, so I was thinking about that. So my kind of motivation is, even though you're unopposed, I think people need to know about what you stand for and what you do and why you're running. So nonetheless, we're having this interview, so I think that's a really good thing.
Okay. To answer that question, well, what do we stand for? West Virginia, of which we are a part, is a source of water for ourselves, the District of Columbia, and parts of 12 other states. Water is life. If that isn't a mandate to stewardship, I've never seen one. I think most of us in the Conservation Agency are committed to creating a situation and assisting cooperators so that when the water leaves West Virginia, it is as clean as when it first emerged, either through rainfall or from the ground.
Okay, so I was looking on the website so I could learn a little more myself what a conservation district supervisor does and about the West Virginia Conservation Agency. So I noticed it started in the 30s and 40s, around that time when there was the Dust Bowl out west, but I guess maybe there was some effect here locally too. And just to preserving soil, and the mission has expanded further, like you're talking about soil and water. So that's a good thing.
Okay, the effect in West Virginia, among others, is this. We have 171 flood-controlled dams around West Virginia. 169 of them need significant work to keep them operating safely. I would cite back to the 2016 floods in Greenbrier and County in southern West and around Richwood. And I'm trying to think what county Richwood is in. I think it's Fayette County. But if those dams that are in those counties hadn't worked as well as they did, the loss of life and the loss of property would have probably been 10 times as bad as it was. So does it affect West Virginia? Yes, it does.
Yeah, and I was thinking about historically too, in the past when it was founded, in the 30s, 40s. So currently there's a hot topic, as you know, with the solar farms. Now, I pass by frequently. I live in Shannondale, the Blake Solar Farm. And in fact, I've noticed on numerous occasions, and I know complaints have been filed with the West Virginia Department of the Environment, the soil running off into the Shenandoah, and you can see all the mud in the Shenandoah River during heavy rains. And I think it's still running off. So the short question is, are you involved with this phenomenon? It seems like I don't want to call it travesty, but like we're talking about soil conservation. Then we're putting in these solar compounds, and here goes our fertile farmland running down in the river. And what's your comment, or what is the role of your agency in this?
Okay, it's like you've set me up to make a commercial here. The situation with the sediment that you see in the Shenandoah River comes from Virginia, unfortunately. Not very much comes from Jefferson County.
But I'm talking about the Blake Solar Farm, like that specifically is Ebbets Run.
I was dealing with the water, and the issue is this: with regard to the sediment and the pollutions in the rivers, The big three macro contaminants in the Chesapeake Bay, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. West Virginia and the District of Columbia are the only two entities who have met the 2025 macro contaminant reduction guidelines. Virginia has not, Maryland has not, New York has not, Pennsylvania has not. Now, the issue with you're coming back to the solar farms. The people putting in those installations are obligated to work to prevent the soil runoff. And yes, down there along the Cabletown Road, it all drains into the Shenandoah, into the Evetts Run watershed, the Bullskin watershed, Furnace Run watershed, and there's one a Long Marsh watershed. When you start with just as I'm going to drop back to the macro contaminant problem. We were able to achieve these goals and guidelines without regulations or threat. That is by voluntary cooperation. And the way we did that, we showed the farmers how much more beneficial it is to them to have their nutrients stay in the soil instead of washing away. In short, by putting the pencil to the paper. Now, unfortunately, developers come in and they don't seem to have this kind of a affinity for the soil. That is, that once it washes away, to them, it's out of sight, out of mind. So I don't know what the county agencies are going to do, or the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection is going to do should these solar farms start eroding. I have not been down the Cabletown Road recently, but I'm told that there are places where the clay and the sediment have washed across the road in places. This is going to have to be addressed, and it probably will come across our desks, but it will definitely come across Department of Natural Resources and Department of Environmental Protection.
Yeah. Well, I know as a fact, and I've reported it on our website, visionroot.org, that definitely two complaints have been filed last year in July and in later, I believe July, but at least two, and they were not yet mitigated in January. The Department of Environment came out multiple times, still found they weren't mitigated. But it seems like there's no teeth. Like, the site's not shut down. I don't hear anything about any fines. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say they're ignoring it. Maybe they are to some extent. It seems like a real conflict. I mean, like, we're talking about soil conservation, and then here we have this situation.
Well, the sad part of that is that both of those offices, DNR and DEP, are so understaffed. And I can't make an accusation, but it's a strong possibility that the people who are causing the problem have decided that they can probably afford to pay the fines and keep doing what they're doing. That has happened before. I hope it doesn't happen again.
Okay. So one thing I noticed, I was reading over the sorry, I forgot the technical term, but the plans for the Blake Solar Farm that were posted when it was going through the zoning approval process, etc. And I noticed or was reading that they were exempt from the local stormwater ordinance for some reason. Maybe you explain it to me. And then the Department of Environment was supposed to take care of it, but we see that's ineffective. Should they not be exempt from the local stormwater ordinance, or what's going on there?
They rightly they should be have to be in compliance like everyone else does. However, I think we have a problem raising its head, because there is a proposal that some of our local legislators have sponsored in the House of Delegates to allow the state to override any and all local zoning ordinances.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the thing that was the bill that was proposed by Wayne Clark twice, I think in 2022 and 3 didn't pass. But I know what you're talking about.
But the point is our
You got muted somehow. Can you unmute yourself? Okay. You're okay now, I think.
okay. Hello?
Yeah, I hear you now. We lost
Okay.
the last couple sentences.
Well, what I said was the two of our delegates have not done well by their constituents by sponsoring such a bill that would allow the state to take control. People talk about small government and local government, then they turn around and propose something to let Big Brother take over.
I know about Wayne Clark. Who's the other delegate?
Paul Espinosa.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was told by one of the candidates that it was Paul. Right. Agreed. Yeah, it seems to be a problem. So how can we're talking about, I mean, it's kind of what we're talking about, but more specifically, in your view, as a Conservation District Supervisor, current and, you're running for the future one, unopposed, how can we conserve our farmland in Jefferson County?
Well, farming is almost a thing of the past in Jefferson County. I'll give you two examples. In 1978, there were 212 operating dairies in Jefferson County. Now there's one.
Wow.
The greater part of that land is going to grow houses. When I was growing up, I could walk across the road from where I'm sitting in season and get a fresh apple off the tree. That orchard is gone, along with about 30,000 other acres of orchards of apples and stone fruit and such. The trouble is the land is so much more valuable to be subdivided and sold off into commercial establishments or residential subdivisions than it is to crop. For instance, how does a young person get into farming when you're going to have to pay $10,000 to $15,000 an acre for land? You're going to have $1 million or more in buildings that has to come from somewhere. A tractor for one person to do the work of himself and about 50 other people is going to cost $200,000. And if you're doing it yourself, if you have to have a combine, that's $500,000 plus the implements for that tractor or tractors to pull. So how does a young person get a $4 to $5 million investment paid for at current prices? For instance, corn last year was about $3.57 a bushel. The cost to produce it was about $3.54 a bushel. That is a margin of 3 cents a bushel. Now, you got to be a pretty good manager to manage on less than 1/3 of 1% margin. So that's the future of farming.
Yeah, other candidates mentioned, I was talking, I think, to Michael Mood for commission about the problem of that the farmers want to retire, but their children have gone into other fields or aren't so interested. So it's, I think, a combination. I mean, you're talking like a new person maybe, but there's also this generational thing apparently where
You're breaking up.
Okay. I think you're talking about like a new person. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. 1 second. We're talking about like the new person getting into business, but also there's this generational issue of current farmers are getting ready to retire, but their children are in other fields, are not really interested, and things like that.
Yes. The old joke used to be that a farmer lived poor and died wealthy. Now farmers live poor and die poor. Now, in my own situation, just the small tract of ground that I have here, I have reached the point where I simply couldn't do the work anymore, and I couldn't justify the cost of the investment to to replace equipment. I had a cousin who wants to farm. That is, this was 15 years ago. He wanted to get into farming, so I said, "Come out here and take a look at this ground." I said, "It's if you can see a diamond in the rough, take a look at it." And he says, "Yes, I'll rent it." I said, "Now here's my terms. You clear it and maintain it, keep the taxes paid on it, and you can have whatever you make." That I'm not going to ask you a per acre charge or anything like that. We've had that arrangement going on now for 15 years, and it's been very good for him so far. And plus, it was the in-kind income that I received from it, because I don't have to spend the $20,000 to $30,000 a year that it costs to maintain a piece of farmland. So
Okay.
it was good for me all the way around, and good for him. Now, when everyone who wants to get into farming isn't blessed to be able to get such an arrangement, but at least I did what I could.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So maybe part of it is education. Like, I know there are groups like, I think I did see on the website things like, some things you do with 4-H or FFA. Are those like organizations doing well? And do we have like, I mean, I'm hearing from some other candidates, like we don't, and maybe yourself, really don't have the next generation farmers, or is there more that could be done, or why not? Why don't people want to go into farming, or am I wrong?
Well, there are people who would like to go into farming, but they are blocked out of it by the costs. For
Okay.
instance, the Veterans Administration up here at Martinsburg has programs of veterans to farms, and they make high tunnel and low tunnel operations, gardening and such as that available. And what those guys make, they sell to the facility, and that's used in the meals they prepare. But there's not I don't know of very many of those guys who have transitioned from the VA Veterans to Farm, or Farm to Fields to Farm program, who have actually gotten into farming and are operating a farm. I don't know of any. There may
Mm,
be some. It's I've never looked into it.
okay. All right. Um, okay. And another or issue or related. So what role, if any, does the Conservation District Supervisor play in the county planning process? Like, we're talking about runoff, we're talking about, to me, like, okay, here's my opinion, you can comment. Like the solar farm, like I heard they might want one in Millville for their like on some of their property, there. Well, that's not like a fertile farmland, the quarry area. Or how about on our dump? Like, would anybody care if there were solar panels on the landfill? I doubt it. But what about why are we putting on fertile and not only that, hilly farmland? Like, I was reading somewhere, it said in uh, the proposals for the planning zoning agency board, rather, that 25% of the Blake property, I think I got it right, is like more than a 15% slope. It's not even suitable for a solar farm, because I think I read on the plans that it's not supposed to slope more than, I think, 10%, or else it's not feasible. So that means they have to cut down some of the hills. I mean, I'm
They
sure
would,
that's
yeah,
awful for erosion. What the heck? What are we thinking?
they do have to grade the ground to make it suitable for the solar panels. And if the contractor doesn't observe proper conservation measures, you will get runoff. But I can't say it for sure, but I think they've decided that any penalties they might incur are just a cost of doing business.
That's unfortunate. So again, getting back to the main question, perhaps I jumped.
To give you a for instance,
Okay.
it's rolling ground. There's a farm near here that is owned by the brother of the president of the Jefferson County Commission. That's proposed for a solar farm. That's a mile walking straight across the country from where I'm sitting talking to you now. And remembering too, because of the grading and such as that, a solar farm is going to be useful for maybe 20 years. Then it'll either have to be replaced or abandoned. In 20 and being on the Satellite 2024 conference board, as I was, and I'm now on the Satellite 2025 conference board for next year, the future of electric generation is going to be solar facilities and space energy facilities in low Earth orbit. That is about 700 miles above the face of the Earth, and it will be literally the electricity generated there will be broadcast to the Earth, which will be far more efficient than the solar panels. Now, when a solar farm is abandoned, the people putting in the solar farms are touting it. Oh, it'll go back to farms. It's farmland preservation. No, it won't, because the land will not be suitable. Because
okay, yeah, I've wondered about that.
It will have been cut down beyond where the nutrients are and the organic matter. So that once land goes out of solar farm, it's going to go into either industrial or commercial or residential development. Once farms leave,
is that because of runoff or because of the grading? Say it wasn't. Say it was flat and didn't need grading. Will it still be unsuitable?
It would still take a tremendous input of nutrients and fertilizers and lime and such to make the soil that from the abandoned solar farm productive again.
Because there's nothing growing on it to speak of for all those years?
Right. Now, I'm going to use a quote from 1896. William Jennings Bryan said, "Burn down a city and another will emerge in its place. Burn down our farms and grass will grow in the streets of your cities."
Right. Good point. Yeah, I think we've got to. So again, what it's getting to is, do you have any role as the county, rather not county, Conservation District Supervisor in the planning process, like the Board of Zoning and Planning? And I know that's not the exact name.
Richard, this is unkind, but I'm going to say it anyway. As a supervisor, when they're doing this 2035, 45 comprehensive plan, I have offered to assist and I have been ignored by the Board of Planning. And I know of some people from other groups who have submitted proposals to them for the 2045, and I am told that their proposals were thrown into the round file.
Right, not good. Yeah.
Nope, not at all.
Okay, well, hopefully in our upcoming elections, we can have better people who do things that are best for our community. For sure. I asked about the FFA and 4-H chapters. I know those are, working with the youth. Do you have any comment? Like, how's that going? Are you able to work well? Are those chapters vital and so on?
Well, you're breaking up again.
Okay, wait 1 second. I'm gonna just a second. I'm gonna see if there's someone's using the internet here. Can you hang on 1 second? Just a second. Okay. All right. No, that's not the problem. I'm not sure what it is. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Briefly to answer you about FFA and 4-H. These are youth groups, and they do serve a purpose to teach conservation and proper stewardship.
Oh, you muted again somehow on your end.
To farming, because once again, the cost of entry into the industry. 4-H and FFA can't provide that.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay. I did notice some of the links and programs on your site are like your site being, I guess, the state site are out of date. Like they have programs from 2018 or 20 or something like that. Are those programs still going, or is it like?
Yes, they list them by those years because that 2018 was the last time a farm bill was passed, and everything is going on continuing resolution. So we're still being funded for those programs. Now there will be there if Congress will get off of its collective duff. We have a farm bill pending, and there's going to be some significant changes to that. And we've been promised that that there will be more attention paid to clean, especially to clean water and reducing pollution. But when I see, I'll believe.
Okay. And kind of as we're getting ready to wrap up, just maybe summarize, what do you think the most crucial issue is for you as the Conservation District Supervisor and the other, staff who assists you, and just any concluding remarks you want to make?
Well, an issue that I'm working on, I would like to see West Virginia adopt a program that I call carbon credits. And I'm just going to keep this brief. First off, it's not a tax, it's an investment. West Virginia will create an exchange mechanism for the carbon credits. Mm-hmm. Every year, each resident of West Virginia, regardless of age, would receive X number of carbon credits, say 10 carbon credits each. Before anyone could discharge anything into the soil, into the air, or into the water, they would have to obtain a certain number of carbon credits. They would have to buy them from the people of West Virginia at whatever price they could come together on. 10% of that would go to fund the exchange, and 10% would go to fund conservation, and the people selling the carbon credits would get the remaining income. See, we're in a situation where almost half the people in West Virginia do not work for one reason or another. And this would be an income source to help prevent or to minimize the drain on public resources, and to advance conservation, and to promote West Virginia as a desirable place to live.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there some controversy about whether don't plants how do you say, need carbon dioxide and so on? I don't claim to be an expert on it, but it seems like there's some controversy about the whole carbon credit thing. Or am I wrong?
Well, for instance, I'm going to throw a rock at Rockwool here in the county. They dump 150,000 tons equivalent of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. That is enough carbon dioxide to melt 10 square kilometers of polar ice cap. Now, how long can we do that? We've got to do something to save our home where we live. Mm-hmm. And profits, the mechanism that the carbon credit program that I'm talking about offers, the person or the entity who's discharging the stuff is an escape mechanism. If you're going to keep doing what you're doing, you're going to pay. If you stop doing it, then you don't have to have the credits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hear you. I'm sorry, I don't know enough about the whole carbon issue. I've heard, though, it's not so proven, trying to, how do you say, pipe around carbon dioxide or whatever the technologies are.
Well, ExxonMobil, Texaco Chevron, and several other major organizations are already working on carbon capture programs. They're finding them workable. They know they're going to have to do it.
I see. Okay. Well, I'm outside of my field of expertise.
If they're putting their money where their collective mouths are, then why shouldn't West Virginia?
Yeah. I think, you make a lot of good points about, I think we all should agree, and I think all the county residents do. We have to, care for the soil and environment. And this idea that just, oh, I have property rights, I'll just set up a solar farm, and all this stuff will run into the river. And oh, by the way, who cares what the neighbors and the houses literally next door think? That's got to go. So I hope we can revise our zoning plan, and the people will wake up and listen to you and many others. And it's not really left or right or anything. It's just common sense to really take care of our soil and water and so on. But
Well, Richard,
yeah,
to throw something in, I have no problem whatsoever with property rights. However, in the early 60s, living right here in Jefferson County, I lived through the Silent Spring as described by Rachel Carson in her book. Now, within 15 years, birds were back. All of them? No. There was some extinction during that period of the more sensitive species. But I know what Silent Spring is, and I'm scared of it.
What was the last thing you said? I'm sorry.
I said, I know what the Silent Spring is, and I'm scared of it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that, about the Silent Spring book. Yes. Okay. A lot of good points today. I really appreciate your time, and just anything you want to conclude with? I'm glad you could come on today.
Also, last year I reread a book that I was required to read as a sophomore in high school called Night Comes to the Cumberlands. It's a sobering book.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you again, and for giving us a light on what you're doing as a Conservation District Supervisor. I know people can vote for you in the primary, which is the election, since it's nonpartisan, for your position. And I thank you again. Thank you for coming on.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. All the best to you.
Okay, you too.